Welcome to No Free Lunch, Africa's freshest business and tech podcast with me, your host, Greg Stewart. Our discussion today is about getting business over the line and the emerging business, HR, fintech platforms that are increasingly playing a big role, not only in managing human resources, but bringing back the human touch to human resource structures. And I'm happy to have as my guests today three South African entrepreneurs who have built successful companies around this philosophy. And so a very warm welcome to South African rugby legend Bryan Habana, fintech entrepreneur Deon Nobrega, and business innovator Tamir Sacks. Welcome to No Free Lunch, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us, Greg.
So Bryan, if I could start with you, not just because you're the most famous personality in our studio today, but because I'm really because I'm really curious as to how you transitioned from a hugely successful rugby career into a business entrepreneur. Tell us a bit about that journey and what inspired the move.
Hey, Greg, I think firstly, great to be on the podcast. I don't joke when I say I'm not the most famous. Tamir has actually got his provincial colours in fishing, which I am horrible at. So if you were to put the two of us together, he's not just a serial entrepreneur and South African businessman. He's actually pretty good. Deon and myself hack the ball around the golf course a little bit, so I'm not quite sure whether I'm his caddy or he is mine. But mate, I'm very privileged and fortunate. But I know for many former athletes, the transition period is the scariest door to open, because when you have to step out of what you've known for the better part of 10, 15, 20 years into the unknown, into the daunting, into the scary, sitting in boardrooms, having to look at budgets, having to try pivot table on an Excel spreadsheet, having to try create PowerPoint presentations based on knowledge that you don't have. It's a really solitary environment, and it's extremely difficult to navigate. And I tell people, I hate the term balance, because as a professional athlete, the last thing that you have is balance. And what I have also learned in the entrepreneurial space, balance is also the last thing that you have, because if you have three silos in your life and you're being balanced, you are not giving a silo 66.666% reoccurring, and gravitating towards a sense of harmony, I think, is definitely something more adequate. But being a relentless professional athlete, and both to me and Deon will understand this, you are just so driven to give everything that you have to be able to achieve success. And every waking second of the day, you're focused on what you're doing to be able to achieve that. And even if you play golf on a Thursday in your off day, that still adds a level of bringing in an holistic approach to getting your body in a position to be prepared for battle on a Saturday. The transition period has been great, because as much as you build a brand, no person becomes successful on their own. And myself and Deon's story goes back 26 years. We were university roommates at what now is the University of Johannesburg, then the Rand Afrikaans University. And Deon had been in the financial services and financial service space for the better part of 15, 20 years. He'd been at a fintech, and he'd come across a concept very much like what Tamir had done, called EWA. He was in a position where his back was potentially against the wall, needed to spread his wings in a very different way, and looked at forming an environment where best in practice specialists to create the possibility of starting a company that could make a tangible impact in South Africa. So specialists in certain elements, and Deon, having a trusted friendship and relationship with me, for the better part of 20 years, said, listen, he's got this concept, he knows how to execute on it. You've got people that can create the tech value. My element can add value to the brand in terms of what we're trying to do from a purpose perspective, and I'll be able to manage it through certain contacts and network opportunities that I have. And came together, the four of us. I had to learn that MVP in the real world doesn't mean most valuable player. It means something very different in the tech space. And Deon, Gary, Potgieter, and Willem van Zyl were instrumentally allowing me to upskill myself. A long-winded answer saying I'm here not because of my own skill. I'm here because of a phenomenal team that I've been able to, through trust and friendship, build a incredible business with. The merge with the Paycurve team under Tamir Sacks' guidance has been, one that has seen us, put an element of 1 + 1 equaling 3, best of both worlds, coming together. I am very privileged to be sitting in a position where the purpose of what we're doing now as a cohesive unit is really on a daily basis making a tangible impact in just under 800,000 people's lives.
Yeah, it's a great story of teamwork, and something that you're obviously familiar with, but it's a different kind of teamwork. So I've just got one other question for you: is that what's scarier, sitting in a boardroom trying to make that pitch or running onto the field with the All Blacks?
Well, depending what
In
I'm going into the
Christchurch.
boardroom with. If it's with the sales deck, I'd much rather be doing the sales deck. If it's with our management accounts, I would much rather play against the All Blacks in Christchurch.
A good answer. Deon, let's just shift to you quickly. You're certainly a classic entrepreneur, and you've steered Paymenow from a small startup to South Africa's largest earned wage success or access success story. Our platform is one that focuses on entrepreneurs and business founders and the business founder landscape in Africa. Can you share some of the best lessons you've learned on this journey that perhaps some other entrepreneurs can take a lesson from?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. And again, lovely to be on your show. I think just to maybe echo some of the words that Bryan said, and there's that old, and I know you're speaking about the African landscape, there is actually that old African saying of, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And it's just such an incredible story about, being able to build a company with an incredibly strong co-founding team. So, I did come up with a concept, but I knew that an idea is like, so many other things. Everybody has one. And it's all around execution and really being able to surround yourself with a competent team that you can trust, that you know that when the chips are down and you need to deliver, you've got each other's backs. So such similarities between the startup world and professional sports. And having Bryan in our team, Bryan mentioned our two other co-founders from the Paymenow side, and I'm pretty sure Tamir's got a very similar story, and I'm sure he'd also like to share on that. But it's just having that support with you, that you know that there is a whole team behind you that's got your back. We started very small. I think for us, just being and following a methodology of being frugal and bootstrapping and trying to make a business actually get to profitability. I think the last couple of years, there's also been a bit of hype around inflated valuations and going down the VC route and just trying to raise funds for whatever reason. It's almost like it's seen that's the only way to start a business, is to go and raise cash at crazy valuations and then somehow try and deploy it and hope to make the business work. I think when we started Paymenow, for us, it was quite important that we build an incredible product from day one. It must be a market fit. We need to solve a problem or disrupt an industry. So I think we were able to check those boxes. Another incredible success factor for us as a business was very early on identifying a strategic investor. So myself, Bryan, Harry, and Willem, we had the expertise. We didn't necessarily have the capital, and we didn't have the distribution channel. So finding a very strategic investor that can bring those elements, not just capital, to the table, is what really helped accelerate us very early on. I would like to say that those are probably some of those, the secret sauce behind Paymenow. And then it goes without saying, Bryan spoke about it, there's no such thing as balance. Definitely my hairline looked a lot better 6-7 years ago when I started Paymenow. So when you do put in you have to put in the hard yards. You have to grind, so it just really comes down to those factors for me.
Yeah, interesting enough, this last week, there was sadly a story about one of the Nigerian fintechs that shut doors. And they had a pretty good product in terms of payment remittances and so on. But the company spent so much time trying to perfect the product and didn't focus on distribution, didn't focus on getting access to the markets. And what you mentioned, I think, is such a key thing for startups. Without that, you could have the best product in the world. But if you don't have that distribution, if you don't have access to the markets, you're actually never going to get out the starting blocks. And bringing someone on board who can open that door for you and bring in some capital is a double win. So it's a great lesson. Tamir, can I turn to you right now? And let's talk a bit about your whole journey with PayCurve, and you founded and built it up. And talk to us a bit about your journey and how you see the marketplace currently, and what led to the idea of the merger, and what do you think that's bringing? So the sum of the parts, as Bryan said earlier, is greater than the individual parts.
Sure. Thanks, Greg. So our journey started beginning 2020. Historically, myself and one of my co-founders, Stephen Williamson, we came out of financial services within South Africa, specifically the credit space. And if we look at what we've got with PayCurve Paymenow on the earned wage access side, It's there specifically to allow employees to navigate pay cycles more effectively and also to combat credit reliance. So coming out of the credit space, we really did have a really good understanding of the good, the bad, the ugly when it comes to credit and credit reliance. And therefore, when we came across the concept of EWA, earned wage access, which Deon mentioned was already established within the American markets and starting to make its way across the various geographies, we knew for South Africa, this was going to be an absolute game changer. So we started beginning 2020. I think we got our first client at the end of 2020, learned some good lessons along the way there. For example, we had a loan developer and we developed our product or our platform in a specific language and later realized that the language was not the right language. But because we came out of financial services, unlike Deon and the team, which are unbelievable technologists, we relied on our techie to guide us, and we couldn't necessarily poke holes in the direction that we were moving. So we learned some early lessons. Nonetheless, it was a very hard start. We didn't get off to a flying start when it came to market adoption and sales. Picked up a couple clients here and there. But I think what was pivotal for us specifically, and this talks to your previous question around the journey, is the fact that we pivoted so much in relation to our sales narrative. So after every single meeting that we had, we would debrief as a team and we'd say, we got that question. Why did we get that question? What did we say in our presentation? What words were delivered that gave that reaction? And we would debrief and we would adjust and we would go into the next presentation and the next and the next. I think we must have worked through our presentation probably 300, 400, 500 times of minor little tweaks before we actually got to a point where it was flowing. The questions we were asked were exactly what we wanted to be asked, because you want your audience to ask questions, and it gives you a really good understanding into, are they following the narrative? Are they following what you're selling or not? We got to a point around end of 2023 where we felt that we had our presentation pretty waxed. Our tech was good. And that's really where we actually started rocking and rolling. We started picking up some good clients. I think what was also key for me during the course of the 5-6 years was initially, obviously, we were competing against Paymenow, and Paymenow was the Northern Star.
Yes.
And we decided at a point to actually what makes us unique, because we were following a lot of what Deon and the team were doing. They were leading a lot of the decision making. We then decided around 2023, actually, let's move off in our own direction. Let's see, we've got a lot to offer the market. We come out of a different space. We think differently. And we started bringing our uniqueness into the product set.
Yeah. And
once we started doing that, and once we had our sales presentation waxed, that's when we started picking up a lot of the bigger corporates and some of the name brands in SA. And we had a great 2024, great 2025. We were in the market looking to do a small equity raise to put some cash into the business. We've got big ambitions around products and so on. We wanted to chase down that dream. And that's when we actually started talking about the merge. Initially, it was we couldn't see how it could possibly come together. But as we worked through it and as we met the team and as we could see alignment in relation to vision, skills, I think what was so incredible for me personally was that Deon and the team and Bryan think differently to the pay curve team. And as a collective, it is an unbelievable mix of talent, skills, resources that are coming together.
Yeah.
And that, we eventually merged end of 2025, and we find ourselves here today. Very exciting.
And that is exciting because you don't just want the same voices in the room. I mean, that's certainly something that I've learned in business. You have the same voices in the room. You hear the same narrative, the same story. There's nobody challenging where you're going to go.
Yeah, you just have a bunch of broers, right? And that's
correct.
Not what you
And you're never going to learn. You're never going to get better. Bryan, you probably experienced that on the rugby field. How do we tackle this team? How do we take out their advantages or build up our own? It's very similar in business. And if you've got the same voices, chances are you're never going to come up with a great solution. But Bryan, you got something to say?
Sorry, on that, and I think it's actually brilliant points that Tamir raised. And as you talk about the correlation to sport and life. When I made the move to go play in Toulon in 2013, I'd come down to Cape Town. I really just loved Cape Town, and I was at a point in my career where I needed to be pushed further, and I got into a bit of a lull, a bit of a rut. I'd had 8 great years of Super Rugby, top prize scorer at the Bulls, doing well at the Stormers, won Super Rugby titles, and I was in a position where I still had ambitious goals of wanting to play in a Rugby World Cup in 2015. And as great as the Stormers environment was and as comfortable as I was in there, I just knew as an individual, I needed something different. And making the decision to go to Toulon, put me to Tamir's point in expertise in totally different capacities. I got to play with the likes of a Johnny Wilkinson, a Carl Heyman, Ali Williams, Matthew Bastivel, and that elevated my own performance. And I tell people, for me, this merge is very much like that transition from going from South Africa. That was a comfortable environment that I was successful in, going really well, a brand that was great, to a totally different environment where the culture pushed me even further. And in that first year, and where I see the direct correlation with Paymenow and the Payco merge, is like in my first year, we won the double. We became the first French team to win the top 14 and the Heineken Cup in the same year. And it wasn't down to individuals. It was down, and we got called mercenaries. We got called the Galacticos of the soccer, of the rugby world in comparison. But it was this collective of incredible leadership skill sets, people willing to continually push themselves, people not comfortable being put in uncomfortable positions of growth. And this merge excites me as much as what that time period in my rugby career gives. And it opens up expertise where you're constantly challenging yourself. And in that, you're also having to unlearn, the steadfast ways in which you were doing things, but having those leadership capabilities around you, specifically leadership. And we look at the leadership team that's come over from Payco, different methodology, different ways of thinking, different ways of stretching how we think about not only this space, to Tamir's point about the lending space, how do we get people changing their behavior, but actually creating a better impact down the lines?
Yeah, if you want to stay where you are, get comfortable. If you want to learn and grow, get yourself uncomfortable, which is another lesson for life, and particularly for business people. Sometimes you've got to get really uncomfortable to make sure that you're stretching and moving on to bigger things. And just in terms of moving on to bigger things, plans looking ahead. I know that you have some businesses outside of South Africa, Namibia, I think Pakistan, plans to go and capture the African landscape, or other countries, other continents perhaps. Where's it going from here? Deon, maybe I can throw that one at you.
Yeah, I think, Greg, our top priority right now was just to get through the merge, make sure that everyone's singing out the same hymn book, and we know what our North Star is here in South Africa. Those other markets are doing fine. There's obviously challenges of taking a product across the border, even though it's a fintech, is still not as easy as what many people might think. There's regulatory changes, there's market nuances, there's different socioeconomic impacts, there's volatilities. So I think for the market concept in terms of cross-border, it's still there. We are actually exploring some developed market entries. So that's really exciting. Other big opportunities for us still here in South Africa is, up until now, we've really been focused on the larger corporates. We've been doing super well in the private sector. Public sector is obviously a massive behemoth opportunity as well. The SME space, so your smaller and medium enterprise, is still massively greenfields for us as a business model. So it's definitely just getting those priorities right for us. We have proven that our product does port very well. I mean, you mentioned Pakistan. Our app is there, totally hosted in country. It's in Urdu and in English. So we've proven that our tech can port very well. In Zambia, for example, the biggest usage on our app is mobile money, which is something that's not as highly adopted in South Africa. So it's also those market-specific, nuances that you need to embrace. But just maybe touching on what Tamir was saying, the Paymenow team, very much a bunch of techies. We're super good at building robust, reliable, high-speed, repeatable technology. And the interesting and exciting thing for us that the PayCurve team brings is that financial services background and expertise. And where our product up until now, and just to give you an idea, in January this year, we surpassed 1 million transactions in a month for the very first time ever in South Africa. That stuff happens at scale. It's fully automated. But where we would like to take people on a journey is to actually bring higher touch financial services products onto the platform. And that is the exciting stuff that the PayCurve team has also brought to the model. So we want to go wide, we want to go deep. It's just getting those priorities right. But right now, just bringing the PayCurve Paymenow team together and making sure that priorities are aligned. And I think the South African market in itself is still actually up for grabs. I'd love to say we are market leaders, but there are so many competitors that pop up from also angles that you don't expect. Suddenly, potentially companies are competing with you that are working in the HR comm space. And, we're actually a fintech. And now we start playing in that space as well. Companies that are doing services that were tangential to our business model, we're also starting to disrupt those spaces. So it's really exciting space to be in. If you ask us where Paymenow is going to be in the next 5 years, that's actually a very tough question. I think market dictates. Our skill set's really leaning more towards financial services. But at the same time, we've built such an incredible distribution model that's so highly adopted. The level of features that we can build out on it is almost endless. So it's a really exciting space to be in.
It's actually a great business model to have, because it's like you've seen in the banks. Once you've got a bank like Capitec went out and captured the market, now it's into telecoms and all sorts of insurance, so that is the
correct
classic distribution channel. And that looks to me like the way that your business has been modeled around. I can only wish you guys every success. And any last thoughts from you, Bryan, as to the market out there and where it's going?
Yeah, I think to Deon's point, we getting through this merge, and I think that's for both organizations coming together, as much as we fully are all aligned with 1 + 1 equaling 2, there's 1 + equaling 3. There's very much things you have to overcome. The cultural ways of methodology, thinking. We're pushing each other each way. Both Deon and Tamir were CEOs of the independent businesses. Tamir is now our sort of chief growth executive, which also has a different mindset. It's a lot of unlearning of what we thought was statutory. And I think for us, it's the first time I've ever gone through a merge. Deon's gone through a merge. Tamir and them have also experienced one or two, but this is like the first real entry point. So I think as an organization, and particularly the leadership group, we need to keep the ship as steady as possible. We need to keep the people as happy as possible, but we also need to continually push the people. And in this growth phase, you don't want to lose the great ones. 1 or 2 might fall by the wayside, but it's very important that the leadership becomes aligned with where we're going. And we have a massive strat session in the next couple of weeks, because this last 6 months has just been navigating this M&A. To Deon's point, we're very fortunate within the ecosystem of expertise, knowledge, and IP that we have from a shareholding perspective that we are able to tap into on a weekly, daily basis, that constantly pushes us for more. They look at our J curve and it's been amazing, but they constantly say, okay, well, what's next? And it really is for us important to navigate the stability that we're currently wanting to achieve, but then also sit and have those hard conversations about what is the short, medium, and long-term goals for the organization look like over the next 3, 6, 12, 18 months. We've got transition clients coming over from the PayCurve environment to a new Paymenow environment. So there's the unease of the uncomfortability that the PayCurve relationships had, and is it going to be changing? Is it going to be different? Their teams got, and we've now got to bring them onto our system. So there's a navigation that's really incredibly important. But what this merge, without a doubt, in my opinion, has created is a massive sense of excitement for the opportunity that it comes with. And we don't know, to Deon's point, what is that long-term future, but we are extremely excited about what this opportunity presents for each and every one of us, not just in terms of our own upskilling, but what the benefit can be for the end user and how we can continuously innovate, adapt, and what is that ever change. I mean, the world is moving faster, particularly now with AI, than what it's ever moved before. And if I tell you we're going to be in the same position this time next month, Greg, please ask Deon to tackle me, which he has done once or twice in our life previously as roommates. But I think it's navigating the merge and really coming together and having those hard conversations, understanding I think that the geopolitical landscape that's facing the world at the minute, right? I mean, we put petrol vouchers onto our platform, 4 months ago, not knowing that
Yeah.
we can have this global crisis around the world, and not just seeing how there's a reduction in people actually driving because they want to. So it's a constant navigation. But I think for us, the excitement is real. The excitement is tangible.
Yeah.
I think the respect amongst the senior executive leadership is of the utmost manner because of what we've achieved, and that the potential of where we're going is something that we cannot wait to grasp with both hands. I would love to have a crystal ball and look into the future, but that would be like asking me, do I know why World Rugby's decision making is so inconsequential? If I had the answer to that, Greg, I would be a billionaire in rands, not in dollars.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and just lots of momentum and positive energy I'm sensing there in the team. And Tamir, Bryan, Deon, unfortunately we're kind of out of time here. I'd love to have another discussion with you, but really these success stories are important for the country. And thank you for opening up about your journey, what you've experienced. These are wonderful lessons that other young entrepreneurs can learn from, and hopefully we'll see more flourishing across the African landscape. So to all three of you, thank you very much. It's great having you on No Free Lunch.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.